Do you know what happens to a business bank account when the business owner dies? I think you'd be surprised how many business owners don't know, don't care, or just don't think about it. I don't know. My name is Ahaji Amos. I'm a small business attorney, and I'm licensed in Missouri, Texas, and North Carolina, and before the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And I just want to have story time. I want to talk about one of the consultations that I've recently done. Don't worry, no one's going to be harmed. I'm not going to break any privilege. I get the same question and the same call all the time. I'm not going to tell you what state they're in. I'm not going to tell you their names, obviously. And I'm not going to tell you the date, right? So you have no idea who I'm talking about. So let's get started. This happens all the time. And it actually makes me sad because there are a lot of communities that can't get ahead, as far ahead as some other communities, simply because generational wealth is just not there. Generational wealth is really, really, really important, right? Because you can only save so much on your own. For a lot of us, our goal and our drive comes from creating generational wealth, having something to pass on to our children so their lives are a little bit easier and so that they have more to pass on to their children. Oftentimes when business owners who have achieved some success are encountered with the realities of life, i.e. that they're going to die and pay taxes, they just kind of avoid both of them and they end up losing it all. And not only do they not create generational wealth, but they also not only do they not create generational wealth, but oftentimes they end up losing everything and becoming a burden. So, when I was listening to this family, I really felt for them because they're going to probably lose most of the assets that they could have benefited from, simply because a lot of business owners just don't want to face the reality that they're going to pass away at some point, or they just, they're going to get old, we're going to get sick, stuff is going to happen. It's just poor planning. So this was a mom who had 6 children and 4 different businesses. The businesses are really irrelevant, but they were businesses that had employees, that had bank accounts, that had bills, that had vendors, that had tax ID numbers and responsibilities. One of them was a restaurant. She owned a rental management company. She actually had about 6 rental properties as well. What were her other? I can't even remember what the other businesses were, but they were businesses that had employees. Like these are not a bunch of side hustles. She had employees for all these businesses. 2 of her children were actively involved in a couple of the businesses. One of her kids lived in her marital home that she shared with her husband. She moved out at some point after he died, and one of their kids is living in the house and has been living in the house for a very long time. Another kid is living in one of the rental properties that she has. And 2 of the children actually predeceased her. So they died before she died. So I was a bit surprised to hear that she had no estate planning done. And I mean none. There were no transfer on death clauses in any of her agreements. There was no payable on death for any of her accounts. She didn't have any trusts. She was the only person listed on the deeds. She just didn't have anything. And when I sort of said, did no one think to talk to her about this? They said, well, she was just so young and she was 60, and it really has nothing to do with your age. Like, it's just being a responsible business person means that you have to plan not to be there, right? You might get sick, you might get the flu, who knows? You have to make sure that you are able to keep that business running when you are not available, if for no other reason other than, hey, maybe you want your kids to be able to benefit from that business, right? It is a shame how much money is lost that could have been passed down to our children simply because people don't want to plan, right? It costs way less to plan now than it will cost for your heirs to try to clean up the mess, right? So let's assume they were in Texas, because Texas is top of mind right now. Let's talk about the intestate rules. Intestate means you don't have a will. Now, side note, I don't believe in wills in the traditional sense. No one should have a will. That's a whole separate video. The only will you should have is a will that says, anything that I didn't put in the trust, I'm willing to the trust. That's it. Like a paragraph. It should be really short. Why? Wills go to probate. Remember, probate, $5,000 to $30,000, 9 months to 6 years. That's what you're looking at, right? Wills are out of date. If your lawyer is recommending that you have a will and that's all you have, it's because when you die, the family's then going to have to go back to that lawyer to say, hey, can you now represent me in probate court as this will is being administered? The only difference between having a will and not having a will is that you get to choose where your stuff goes. If you have a will, you still have to go through probate. So a will ain't it. If you have a will, call somebody, because you need to get a trust. You need to figure out how to get out of probate court. Probate court is absolutely ridiculous, and I'll do a whole nother video. But the point of probate court is that someone's supposed to be looking out for your money. They're supposed to be making sure that what's in your will is actually what's being carried out. But no, everybody over there is underpaid, overworked. Nobody's caring. They're just pushing you through, which is how all these folks are getting these crazy guardianships. But like, I digress on that. So in Texas, what would happen? She has 6 children, even though 4 are alive. All of her stuff is going to be put in one pot, and that's after whatever happens to whatever assets she has that she's not going to be making payments on. Because I can tell you that during that probate process, when there's no access to the business bank accounts, there's no way to pay your vendors, there's no way to pay your mortgage, there's not even really a way to even know like what she really has. Because, I mean, it was just all kind of a mess. So they're going to take it and they're going to divvy it up, not in 4 parts. They're going to divvy it up in at least 6 parts, maybe more. And let me explain why. The 2 kids that passed away, their interests are going to be split amongst their heirs. So if kid number 1, who predeceased her, had 3 kids, his portions, so his 1/6 is going to then be split 3 ways, which is, I don't even want to do the math. I'm not going to try to do the math. I'm good at math, but it's midnight. I can't do the math right now. And I've had a long day, so this is when I could do it. So that kid's going to have that. And the other kid who predeceased her could have, say, had a wife and kids. It's going to be divvied up amongst whomever that person's heirs are. It's going to be divvied up, right? Now, how do you divvy up businesses? It's hard, right? How do you divvy up a business? Does anyone know how to divvy up a business? No. Does anyone know how to divvy up one house amongst 6 to 10 people? No. So what happens? The court will just allow whoever's administering the estate to put all of the names on the deed. All of them. That is a nightmare. I'm actually involved in a case that I've been fighting for years, and I'll make a whole nother video about that, because somehow I co-own a property with someone who I shouldn't be co-owning a property with, because someone failed to do their estate planning. And so now we're there together, and we've been there together, and it's cost me, I mean, probably $50,000 to try not to co-own the house with her, but somehow I still co-own the house with her. And it's crazy, right? Because things happen at the house and I'm responsible for it, and I don't want to be responsible for what happens at that house. So anywho, so back to the story. So she, so the person I'm talking to was like, what? Yeah, so everything that she owns is going to be divvied up, and everybody's name is going to be on every asset, which means that everybody has to agree. Even the children or heirs of the person who passed away. Everybody has to agree on what to do with the property, right? Everyone has to agree on what realtor to hire. The realtors will make you all sign the contract. If one of you won't sign the contract, you won't get a realtor, right? That's if, again, you can keep it if someone is making the mortgage payments, if someone has been paying the taxes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because there's going to be no access to the money. And that could have easily been prevented by simply putting the businesses in a trust, putting the property in a trust, having a transfer on death clause in her LLC operating agreements, having the trust bequeath separate assets to separate people. Right? Very, very easy. I spoke to the folks who've been working with her for years in one of the businesses. They say, well, she said she was going to give it to me. I've been working there for 25 years. Well, I'm sorry, honey. She didn't give it to you. So you can't have it. Now you're sharing it. And I mean, your sisters and brothers might just decide to fire you. Who knows? And you're probably not going to get paid for a couple years anyway, right? Because it still has to go through probate to get access to the bank account. So that is my story time. Don't let that happen to you. It's really irresponsible. And just think about what those family members could have done with those assets had they gotten them without all of the burdens that are going to come with the fact that they won't be able to pay the bills until they're out of probate. And because they were baffled by the fact that they're going to have to go to probate. And I was told that they would gather up the money and they try to come back in 6 months. And from what I've been told, not everybody was willing to pay. So I don't know. Maybe they'll try to do probate on their own. It's not as easy as you think. It's actually quite a complicated process, no matter what state you're in. And when it comes to businesses and real estate, especially rental properties being in there, I mean, you can just forget about it. They'll be in probate for years. So I hope this helps. Please, please, please do succession planning. There's so many small business attorneys out there who do a really good job at succession planning. It's not terribly expensive. And if you want your kids to inherit your property and to be able to benefit from all your hard work, which I think should be really the goal of every parent, then please, please, please go find a lawyer to do some succession planning for you. Again, my name's Haji Amos, and I'm a small business attorney, but I'm not your attorney, so please go find one. Do your succession planning. Bye.